Alrighty, welcome back to the Final Fantasy VII Enemy Trivia Challenge. Thank you so much for being here. Again, thank you so much on YouTube. It's been crazy. So many people have been messaging me about this playthrough, that they're loving it. The first episode, everyone just really poured out the love for it. So thank you so much. It really means a lot. Thank you for that. Also, anyone that's joined the Patreon since we started, I know some people have been reaching out about like E33 because our E33 playthrough is on Patreon. We put it on Patreon because it was like a side project. It wasn't one of our main playthroughs, but a lot of people want to see it. So it is over there, and it's pay what you want. So like, you know, you can pay, you can do the very lowest tier and still get all the videos. So check that out if you're interested in E33. I figured I'd mention that because a lot of people have been asking about it. But if you want to support this series and have it keep going, Patreon's a great way to do it over on YouTube because that's where you get all the exclusive YouTube videos. So, you know, if you're out here on Twitch now, supporting through Twitch is great, but if you're watching this on YouTube, Patreon's the place to go. And the link's in the description. So before we get started today, I do have a couple. Let me actually, is the unfocused patch working? I hate when I click off the game and the music stops. Yeah, let me fix that real quick. I have a few things to say from last week that I missed. So just two things that I missed from last week. There we go. Now it's fixed. So first thing is Mighty Grunt. I forgot to mention that they have a 14% chance of dropping a tranquilizer, which at one time was actually like a big strat for the speedrun. So because it was a 14% chance, we didn't like depend on it. But if he dropped the trank, you could actually do a separate strategy later in the PC 80% run. And it actually saved time. So there was like a really goofy 14% chance of getting a time save on the Mighty Grunt encounter way back in the day. Nowadays, it doesn't matter, but one of the routes included that tranquilizer. And also, the Mighty Grunt has a concept art that I forgot to show, which is pretty cool because it shows both pictures here, or both forms, rather. It shows the skater and the armor, and the armor has this same like little squiggly thing coming out of his head that the grunt had. So I found that funny. I don't know if that's because they're both grunts or what. I never really made the connection between Mighty Grunt and Grunt, but I guess this is supposed to be like the upgraded version of the Grunt, which is the guy with the beam cannon. So, and they both have this little squiggly thing coming out of their head. But yeah, there's that. And then the other thing I forgot was there's actually a concept art for the hedgehog pie, which is pretty cute. Pretty funny looking concept art. Seems like the type of enemy you would just kind of design quickly and not like... This one kind of surprised me there's a concept art for it. Like, I didn't figure this one was one that he had thought of from the beginning. It seemed like something they threw in later. But nope, he has a concept art. He's looking pretty... kind of looking like a gremlin from Gremlins. Anyways, we are moving on to Sample. Sonic really fell off. And I don't think I put on Poison yet. I mostly wanted just to level up, so... Actually, we're getting red here. So I'll probably go like this. And... okay, whatever. What's the rarest encounter? Kind of hard to say. Like, in terms of percentage, I think the Cactuar is. He has like a 1 in 32 chance, I think. We'll talk about that later when we get there. But there are some encounters that are like more rare just because they only show up on one screen. So a lot of people just run past them. Like the Cactuar is really rare, but usually you end up stuck in the desert for a while, so you end up seeing them. So, kind of depends on what you mean by rare. There's a couple. I think the one that comes to mind is one we'll talk about near Cosmo Canyon. That only has one place on the world map that they spawn, and it's not really a place you go to for any reason. So I feel like that one is probably... I think I'll get more comments of people saying, like, I've never seen this enemy with that enemy than any other enemy, if I had to guess. The heck is Snakeboat 3D? What have you done? Get that out of my chat. Oh, I can't wait till we talk about the Chinese canon. That's going to be a fun one. Okay, so Red's name, by the way, I believe we settled on Regis, right? Red 13 is Regis. It fits. I almost want to call him Regis 13, but... Good old Regis 13. Alright, so... Mr. Sample. Who, by the way, is H0512, not HO512. Alright, so Sample halves lightning damage and absorbs poison element, but isn't immune to poison ailment. So the way this works is if I try to use Bio on him, which I believe Dawson has. If I try to use Bio on him, he's going to absorb it. And because he absorbs it, he isn't taking damage from it. And because he isn't taking damage from it, he can't get the ailment. Because the way Bio works is it has to deal damage in order to roll for a chance for poison. But he isn't immune to the ailment. So if you were to use a move like Bad Breath, which doesn't need to deal damage to give the poison ailment, you could actually poison him. And if you poison him, he's just going to heal from the poison ticks. So every time it ticks, it's just going to heal him. So he's going to have like a budget regen. But we have no way to do that at this point in the game. The minions are actually not protected from poison, so you can poison them to kill them. But they are immune to earth for some reason. Maybe because they like jump. I don't know why, but for some reason they're immune to earth. There are some unused formations of this fight that don't have as minions. I can show you after the fight. So there's probably a chance that originally they thought about having Sample just appear with himself and then summon the minions somewhere throughout the fight, but then eventually just decided to have the minions there at the start of the fight. He will always reanimate the minions if you kill them, but he can only do it 3 times. And he'll do it even if you kill one. So if you kill a single minion, he will still use Reanimagic, and it will just miss the other 2. But he can only use Reanimagic 3 times. Doesn't matter how many he revives with Reanimagic. It costs the same amount of MP. Actually, I don't think it's an MP thing. I think it's just there's a counter. So he can only do it 3 times. So even with just 1 gone, he will immediately bring him back. So it's pretty... Unless you want to take the time to kill him 3 times, it's pretty much a moot point to kill the minions because he reanimates them so quickly. I believe he does waste a turn, but other than that, it's not worth doing at all. And then finally, the other thing I wanted to mention about this fight is it's actually used in the current speed run, or no, it's not used in the speed run because we just wrong warp instead, but I think there's a category where you can't wrong warp. Like there's a no warp category of the PC runs where you can do disc 1 skip but not warp. And this fight's actually used for that because if you're on the world map and you load a file that's at this fight and you game over and then you load the world map, you will no longer get random encounters, which I can show you that as well. It's a very, very weird glitch that only works on the PC version. And that's pretty much it for our boy Sample. If you target just him, the fight goes pretty fast because he doesn't really have that much health. This fight's kind of a test of, hey, maybe don't just attack what's in front of you all the time. Sometimes you need to attack other targets. Which is a good tutorial, but also I don't know if there really is any other bosses in the game that you want to target something else. Now that I think about it. Like maybe carry armor. But for the most part, there's usually just one target you want to attack. We'll just keep you guys, that's fine. Yeah, there was supposed to be a long time ago, like pretty early in development. I don't think it really got super far into development, but they had a plan for 2 other Red 13s. It was like Indigo 14 and something 15. Violet 15. Purple 15. Something 15. It was literally 2 more colors and numbers. And they were going to be like rivals. They were going to be like Turks. They were going to follow you throughout the game. And they were basically the Ronzo brothers. Cobalt. Yeah, I think it was Cobalt. They were like the Ronzo brothers in 10. They would like follow you throughout the whole game and be like, hornless, Red 13, loser. And then there was actually going to be, I think there was a document somewhere saying that there was going to be a final battle with them at the North Crater, actually. You were going to like fight them at the North Crater in like a final battle. And I don't know if it was going to be the whole party or if you would just have to fight them with Red 13, but yeah, there was like a whole plan for that. And then you can see why they didn't do it because they didn't even really utilize the Turks that much. So, you know, they definitely didn't have time to utilize the Red 13 brothers because they didn't even have time to really use the Turks as much as they wanted to. Okay, so real quick, I'll show you 2 things here. First thing here is one of the sample fights where there's no minions. So this is just in the code. It's never used. But to me, this signifies that perhaps they had an idea to... And he doesn't ever... I don't think he ever summons the minions in this fight, but... My guess is that they were maybe going to have him summon the minions like halfway through the fight or something, or just after the screen came in, he would summon them, but then at some point they were like, nah, let's just have them be already in the fight. And then if I can grab a save file real quick. Just have to grab a save file that's on the world map here. Go into my big folder of Final Fantasy VII saves. Okay, that should work. So if we were to load this up again and go do the fight. And this only works on the PC version. And then game over on purpose. And then load a world map save. There will now be no encounters on the world map. We could run around as much as we want. There will be no encounters. So this is used in Disc 1 skip for PC. So you know how if you go back and watch my Disc 1 skip video, how it's super difficult because you have to dodge encounters all the way to the Bone Village, or the city rather. The reason you don't have to do that on PC is because of this glitch. So you can just do this glitch, and then you can do all of Disc 1 skip without having to worry about encounters, which makes it like 10 times easier, because you just have to do the movement that deloads the map. You don't have to worry about doing the very specific movement and camera movements and everything to dodge encounters. He's on a mission from God. He's getting the band back together. Alright, now we should be good until Genova attacks. We need the... Oops. We need the Genova creatures. Or the experiment creatures. Probably heroes, I would imagine. Well, that's basically the lowest level challenge, Alundra. Which, the lowest level challenge is probably like top 5 favorite challenges I've ever done. It was pretty amazing. It took a lot of knowledge. Oh, sorry. I didn't pick up your... I didn't pick up the sarcasm. Yeah, not only once, but 3 times. There were several comments on the first couple episodes of people saying that we should do a playthrough where every enemy shows up once, like a Nuzlocke. I had mentioned like a reverse Nuzlocke where the enemies show up once and they're gone forever. Which would be cool, but we'd have to add something to it or it would be too easy. Because that would just be an easier version of the lowest level challenge. Although I guess maybe if you weren't allowed to run away from enemies, like once you encountered one, you had to kill it and then it was gone forever. Maybe it wouldn't be as easy as I think. I would be down to the limit break only challenge. Every time I bring it up, it gets vetoed. Because it's an insane grind. Yeah, it's a stupidly long grind. Yeah, like even in the level 1 challenge, or sorry, the lowest level challenge, we used like steals to grind money and stuff. In an actual like permanent death run where every enemy you can only fight once, you could still gill grind off of like Gold Saucer or Bone Village, but it would be much tougher. And you couldn't, a lot of items would be totally missable. It isn't as long as getting to level 99 in Reactor 1, but it's about as painful. Item only would be easy, unfortunately. See if I can get the skip. I don't even remember where never mind. I don't remember where the pixel is. Alright, we got 3 enemies to fight here. Bum 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 bum. Ba-da-ba. What happens if you only fight every enemy one time? Is there a situation where there's no more encounters available in the entire game because you've done them all? Yep. And then you just have to fight Sephiroth, and whatever happens, happens, I guess. Alright. This is one of my favorite enemies in the game. This is Vargid Police. I absolutely love the name of this enemy. I don't know what it means. I don't know why they're called Vargid Police. I don't know what a Vargid is. I don't know what they're policing. But I just love the fact that the translators looked at the original Japanese and said, Vargid Police. I just love it. This name has always stuck out to me. Like, even as a kid, I remember this name just sticking out to me. Like, what the heck does this mean? The actual translation was probably supposed to be like Vargid Polis, like Varghidpolis, which is what he is in Rebirth. So they translated it to that in Rebirth, but Vargid Police is S tier, way better than that. He has only 2 attacks. He has a needle attack, which can paralyze, and for some reason it does 1 damage. I don't know why it does 1 damage. Like, pretty much every other attack in the game that does paralysis or some kind of ailment just does 0 damage, or it does regular damage. This is the only attack in the game that does an ailment and does 1 damage. So I'm not sure why that is, but... And then he also has a move called Suicide, which deals 3/16 max HP to all party members. And if they use it, then you won't get any rewards from them. However, the code for triggering it seems to be bugged in my experience. I did a bunch of testing with it. I didn't read anything about it being bugged, but I tested it. And it seems to be bugged to me because it's supposed to trigger 1/4 of the time, always. Like, no matter if you've touched them or not, it's supposed to trigger 1/4 of the time. But they don't seem to ever use it on their own. It's also supposed to trigger if another one is killed or if they're at 25% HP. But from my testing, it seems to only work if they're under 25% HP. So if I kill one, from my testing, it doesn't seem to ever, like, none of the other ones are going to use it. They'll just sit here and spam needle forever. Yeah, it's one of the unknown variables that we don't know what it does. But through my testing, I could never get it to trigger anyways. So here, he's going to use it now. I think. Yep. Oh, it only hits 1 member, not all members. So yeah, it's not very scary anyways. I mean, it does more damage than your typical attack, but it's not very scary. And also another weird thing I found is that if you're in the battle arena and you kill another enemy that isn't Vargid Police, so if you have like 2 Vargid Police and then a Gorger or something, or a Hole Eater, and you kill the Hole Eater, then they can potentially use it. Which is pretty weird. Not sure if that was intended or not. But for my testing, they won't use it if any of the others are killed, which they're supposed to. Let me see. There's the fight we just did, and then there's a back attack with Brain Pod and Vargid Police. And then there's the Vargid Police Zanine fight, and then there's a 2 Vargid Police fight, and then there's a Pincer fight. So maybe the Pincer fight? That would be pretty scary if the Pincer fight, they also used it. Let's test it, I'm curious. I'll just make myself invincible. Let's see if they use it. Doesn't look like they're doing it without one dying. Let's kill one. Nope, still not using it. Bum, 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 bum. Yep. Yep, seems like it's just bugged. They don't use it. Or it could be one of the other encounters. Alright, that's one. We still have Brain Pods and Zanines. I don't know if Zanines show up down here. No, I think they do. Could be, yeah, it could be a formation that's not. They never actually implemented. That 2020 thing is used in a lot of different AIs. All right. Fan favorite enemy, the Brain Pod. So, Brain Pod has this attack called Refuse. The way it works is there's actually 2 Refuse attacks that both have the same exact name. The first one they use will always poison. And then if they go to use Refuse on an enemy that's already poisoned, they use the second Refuse, which will put you to sleep. And if you look closely, they actually have different animations. So this one's like a white thing and then green spiral. Oops, I'm still invincible. Hold up. So white screen and then green spiral, that's the poison one. And then now he's going to use the other Refuse, and that one's spit. And this one can cause sleep. But they're both called Refuse for some reason. There it is. So it seems like there was supposed to be 2 different attacks, but they're both just called Refuse. And also, another fun fact that I never knew before. Did you know they're weak against curatives? Even though they're obviously not undead. Yep, never knew that. Never knew that till I saw it. While I was researching, I was like, holy cow. One of the many enemies that can be cured to death. And now we got one more. Yeah, Phoenix Down would insta-kill them, but only at a 25% chance. Let's see if we can get a Zanine fight. And elixirs will auto-kill them all the time. Is there fights here? There they are. Alright. I love these guys because the way that their claws are designed, their hands look like little mouths. It cracks me up. So this name is a direct translation from the Japanese. It wasn't changed at all to fit English, and even retains this name in the remake. So they looked at Zanini, and they just said, yeah, we're just gonna we're just gonna keep the name. We're not gonna come up with any translation for that. Just gonna leave it. And even in remake, they still just leave it as Zanine. They resist fire. But one thing that I never knew is they can also be damaged by poison. Or potions, rather. And there's also another really interesting thing with these guys, which I'll show after we do the fight in relation to that. And of course, one of my favorite things to point out about this enemy is their pizza shower attack, which I love. One of my favorite attack names in the game. Good old pizza shower. Let me see a pizza shower before I kill him. So I wasn't paying attention. Give Give me a pizza shower. Oh, don't their tails... Their tail also is, like, weird. Look at his tail. Bum, 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 bum. He's not going to use a pizza shower? Alright, fine. Yeah, so these guys and the brain pods can both be damaged by curatives. Which these guys make more sense. They look a bit undead, and also their counterparts in the Gi cave are also undead, so this one makes more sense. But the brain pod I would have never known without looking it up. Okay, so another cool thing about this fight. Let me add some materia here. We're going to put on added effect and destruct. Then check this out. I gotta kill one first, because I have a limit. There's my pizza shower. Kill this guy so I don't die. Bum, 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 bum. Alright, check this out. So, added effect death heals him. And if we use... I believe if we use the death spell... Yeah. So the death spell fully recovers them, like an elixir. So this is not normal of enemies that get healed by curatives. This is a special property that only these guys and like one other enemy in the game has. They are basically, they heal from the death ailment. So using death on them or using added effect death heals them. Which is pretty bizarre. You're never going to have access to any of that stuff here anyways. But for some reason, they decided to do that. Yep, like the ghosts in the train graveyard. And I think that is it for here. So we are good until we're out of Midgar. We've fought everything in Midgar now. Obviously, still have the bosses, though. Yeah, they're totally different ailments. Life is just holy, I believe. Death is like its own thing. And the when enemies get healed, so in a lot of RPGs, you have like a undead property of an enemy. And if the enemy is undead, then they get hurt by heal things. Life will auto-kill them. Maybe they're weak against fire. Maybe they're immune to death. Like, there's a couple different properties that come with being undead. In this game, there's no such thing as undead. Instead, there's the holy element, whether or not you're weak to it or not. The death ailment, and whether or not you're weak against it, normal to it, or absorb it. And then there's another thing called restorative. And almost everything in the game just takes normal from restorative, but then some enemies that look undead, they will make it so that the restoratives deal damage instead. But it's totally separate from the death and holy thing. And there's no actual, like, undead property. Yeah, and when you cure and stuff, it's restorative element. I don't think there's anything in the game that takes extra damage from restorative. Like, heals more when you heal it. I think everything is either 100% or, I guess, like, negative 100%, where they take reverse. I don't think any of them are 200%. Yes, they can. But Phoenix Downs are bad to use because they only have a 1/4 chance of hitting. It's better to use an X Potion or an Elixir. But yes, they do work. Okay, oh, I never gave you the striking staff. Whoops. I mean, I wasn't using her anyways, but... Sure, why not? Actually... I don't really care. I just want to level stuff up. I'm not going to use any of this anyways. Cool. By the way, you can soft lock on that door. Fun fact. Fun fact about this boss, you can die before you ever get to the fight. Alright, welcome to 100 Gunner. So, 100 Gunner has 3 phases. In his first phase, he uses Aux Artillery and Hidden Artillery. In Phase 2, he uses Main Artillery, and then in Phase 3, he charges for 2 turns, and then uses Wave Artillery. He also has an attack called Sub Artillery that was supposed to deal damage to a single target, but he never uses it. And he has a really cool concept art. Look at how detailed this concept art is. There's like... Let me get, hold up. Let's full screen this one. Because there's a lot of small detail. There's like a... there's one here. Part here where there's like the beam cannon shooting. And this, presumably Cloud getting cooked. There's all sorts of stuff with like the way the guns move and everything. Lots of little details. The way the turrets spin. Got a lot of ideas. Yeah, it's called the Arsenal in Remake. So yeah, lots of little cool details in this concept art. Almost closed out of the game. I believe 100 Gunner was a more direct translation, actually, and then they just changed it for Remake for the sake of changing it. I don't think it was a case of Arsenal was actually a better translation, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I think it was 100 Gunner was actually a better translation. But some of the enemy names they changed in Remake just to, because they decided they wanted to change it. They thought Arsenal sounded cooler or whatever. Arsenal kind of fits better with the naming conventions of Shinra in the Remake. Yeah, like the Arsenal and the Valkyrie and stuff. It didn't really make sense to call this 100 Gunner, but then call Valkyrie, because the point is that they go together, 100 Gunner and Heli Gunner. So now he's in phase 3. He'll charge up for 2 turns and then use his cannon. It says charging and then charged and then uses it. And it comes out of like his stomach where there's no cannon. I mean, it's like this little like grill here, but kind of just shoots it out of his stomach. All right, here is Heli Gunner. So Heli Gunner, once he's down to 250 HP, he starts spinning, and he starts doing that really annoying top attack. But the other thing that I didn't know is that he gains 50 defense and 50 magic defense when he starts spinning. So it's actually harder to finish him off once he starts spinning. He's also the only one in this fight to give spoils, because 100 Gunner was supposed to give you an extra 330 XP, 35 AP, and 300 gil. But when they coded it, they didn't code him to die like a normal enemy. They coded him to get removed so that Heli Gunner could come in afterwards. And because he gets removed, you never get his spoils. So the 330 XP, 35 AP, and 300 gil that 100 Gunner gives is just never given to you, ever. And instead, you only get the XP and gil and AP from this guy. So yeah, we were robbed. We've been robbed this whole time and never knew. Shinra. Is this the only boss battle where you fight 2 separate bosses back to back? Yeah, Hojo technically. Yeah, I think so. I believe Hojo is coded correctly in that the first 2 phases just give you nothing. And then the 3rd phase gives you everything. I would imagine that the reason they did it this way is because... I mean, it might have been a mistake. They might have meant to give you all of it. But the reason that they gave 100 Gunner his own spoils is that they may have thought that they were going to use him later for something. Like, you come back to Midgar, maybe he's here as a regular enemy, or maybe he's in the battle arena or something. Although battle arena doesn't give spoils, but... They might have thought, like, well, maybe 100 Gunner will be used later, so we'll give him stuff. And then they just never did. But it makes sense that they could potentially use him again. Yeah, so he uses remove self instead of dying the normal way, which is the way that a lot of enemies remove, like, different phases of themselves. But here, it wasn't supposed to be used because then you don't get his spoils. I would like my materia. At least restore would be nice. And actually, I'm going to put on the Mithril Armlet so I can have Lightning Elemental. Yeah, Lost Number is technically 2 enemies. Well, 3. Alright. It's time for Rufus. Actually, let's do Dark Nation first. So we got Dark Nation here, who's technically back row, by the way, even though he's like next to Rufus. He gets removed from the battle if Rufus is defeated, but he doesn't give his rewards. So you want to defeat him first if you want his rewards, which he does drop a guard source, which is kind of nice. He always casts Barrier on Rufus for his first turn, and then he can also cast Barrier and M Barrier on himself, but for whatever reason, he can't put M Barrier on Rufus. So he always puts Barrier on Rufus, and then he could put Barrier and M Barrier on himself, but he'll never use M Barrier on Rufus. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. And then Rufus, the laugh that Rufus does is actually a trigger, which a lot of speedrunners know. If he has more than 200 HP and the last attack from Cloud did damage less than 100, there's a 1/3 chance that Rufus will laugh, which I find really cool that it's specifically if he's healthy and Cloud does an attack that doesn't do a lot of damage, that's when he laughs. So it isn't just a random thing he does for the sake of this fight. It's specifically like he's laughing at you because you didn't do much damage. And then also the helicopter in the background that's flying around, that's actually technically an enemy. Anytime they have models like this in a fight, like for example the Tiny Bronco during the Palmer fight, it's always coded as an enemy because it was easier for them to animate doing it that way. Because you have like the background layer and then the textures of the actual combat arena, and none of that has animation. So it was much easier for them to just code anything they needed to animate in a fight as a separate enemy and just not have it be targetable. And then from there, they could have their animations that they do for every enemy. Like I think this animation here is technically like standstill animation like Cloud's doing now. So it's just much easier for them to program it that way. So the helicopter is technically an enemy, but he has, I think, like 1 HP, and you can't target him. And I think that was all I had. Yeah. Wow. Nice job, Cloud. You don't even have Fury. How did you miss? I don't actually, you know, I've never used Pandora's Box in this fight, I don't think, but we do have funny Pandora's Box stuff for later. I know what you're referencing. That's later down the road, though. But yeah, I'm not sure if it does anything in this fight. I wouldn't imagine, because the helicopter is visible back there. So it'd probably just stay back there. If it were invisible and then like came in later, then it could potentially do some goofy stuff. Dark Nation's not immune to manipulate? I'm not sure I read that. I don't have access to the helicopter in Ultima. You just did some research, aka check the wiki. Let me see. Yeah, it doesn't. It says we gotta try that, because that would be funny if you could manipulate his dog. Granted, you'd never have manipulate at this point, but unless you smuggled it. I think if we fight him now, actually no, we only have Cloud. It should be fine. Yeah, Rufus's eyes are weird. They're like, the layer is like incorrect, so his eyes look like there's a bridal thing in front of him or something. They look weird. Okay, hold on. Let's see. It said miss, so it probably will work. It's probably a pretty bad idea, though, because then I can't heal. There it is. All he has is bite. Which does like no damage. Horrible, horrible plan, but it does work. That's just kind of funny because it's his pet. Yo, thank you, Hitman. Appreciate it. Yeah, especially through barrier, it's not too great. I am your owner now.